Part 3. The moment Adebayo's finger touched the key, he felt a surge of power course through him. The air crackled with electricity, and for a split second, he saw the code of reality itself, an impossibly complex tapestry of symbols and equations that made his most advanced programming look like a child's scribbles. Then, chaos erupted. Across Lagos, across Nigeria, across the world, millions of phones buzzed simultaneously. The app icon pulsed with an otherworldly light, drawing users in like moths to a flame. As people tapped their screens, the boundaries between worlds began to blur. In the bustling streets of Lekki, a businessman screamed as his Rolex transformed into a writhing snake around his wrist. On Third Mainland Bridge, drivers swerved to avoid phantom spirit cars that appeared out of nowhere. In the halls of power in Abuja, politicians found themselves speaking in tongues, prophesying doom and rebirth. Adebayo watched it all through the app's analytics, his mind expanding to encompass the flood of data. He saw the confusion, the fear, but also the wonder and the awakening. People were beginning to see the world as it truly was, in all its terrifying beauty. "It's magnificent," Folake breathed, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "You've done it, my love. You've opened the door." But even as she spoke, Adebayo felt a chill run down his spine. Something was wrong. The energy flowing through the app was growing stronger, wilder, beyond anything they had anticipated. It was as if they tapped into a power far greater and more ancient than even the gods had realized. Alarms began blaring in the coding sanctuary. Adebayo's fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to contain the surge, but it was like trying to hold back the ocean with his bare hands. "Folake," he said, his voice tight with fear. "Something's coming through, something big." Before she could respond, the air in the center of the room began to ripple and tear. A yawning void appeared, and from it emerged a figure that made Adebayo's mind reel. It was massive, its form constantly shifting and changing. One moment it appeared as a giant serpent, the next a towering humanoid with too many limbs. Its eyes, and there were many, burned with the fire of creation and destruction. "Olorun," Folake whispered, falling to her knees. "The Supreme God." Adebayo wanted to run, to hide, but he found himself rooted to the spot. The being's gaze fell upon him, and he felt the weight of eons pressing down on his soul. "Adebayo," the voice boomed, shaking the very foundations of reality. "You have done well, but also terribly. The balance is disturbed. The veil was not meant to be torn so violently." I'm sorry," Adebayo stammered, feeling like an insect before a giant. "I didn't know." "Ignorance is no excuse," Olorin interrupted. "You have unleashed chaos upon the world. Now, you must make it right." The Supreme God turned its attention to Folak, who was still prostrate on the ground. "And you, daughter. You have overstepped your bounds. The time of gods walking openly among mortals has passed. This is not the way." "But Father," Folake pleaded, "we only wanted to reclaim our place, to be worshipped again." "True worship comes from the heart, not from fear and confusion," Olorin replied, its voice softening slightly. "You have much to learn." With a wave of its hand, or was it a tentacle? Olorin summoned a swirling vortex of energy. "The damage must be undone. The veil must be repaired. But not all will be as it was." The vortex expanded, engulfing Adebayo, Folake, and the entire sanctuary. Adebayo felt himself being torn apart and reassembled, his consciousness expanding to encompass the entire network he had created. He saw millions of users, their minds touched by the divine, struggling to comprehend what they had experienced. With a thought that felt like moving mountains, Adebayo began to write new code. weaving a spell that would soften the blow of revelation. Memories would become hazy, the starkest horrors fading like a half-remembered dream. But the sense of wonder, the awareness that there was more to the world than met the eye, that would remain. As he worked, he felt Falak's presence beside him, her power joining with his. Together, they rewrote reality, sealing the greatest rifts and smoothing over the tears in the fabric of the world. When it was done, Adebayo found himself back in his physical body, slumped over his keyboard. Sunlight streamed through the window of his small apartment in Yaba. His phone buzzed with notifications, concerned messages from friends and family, news alerts about a mass hallucination that had swept the globe. Falak was gone, but he could still feel her presence lingering at the edges of his perception. On his arm, the mark she had given him had faded to a faint scar, a reminder of the journey he had undergone. His laptop screen flickered to life, showing the analytics for his app. The user base had exploded overnight, but the code was different now. The overt gateways to the spirit world were gone, replaced by subtler nudges towards mindfulness, appreciation of nature, and exploration of cultural heritage. A new message popped up on his screen. The balance is restored, but the door remains cracked. Use your gift wisely, Adebayo. We will be watching. It was signed simply, O. Adebayo leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling from everything that had happened. He had tasted godhood, walked between worlds, and very nearly brought about the end of reality as he knew it. Now, he was being given a second chance, an opportunity to bridge the gap between worlds in a more responsible way. As he pondered his next move, Adebayo's phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. "Dinner tonight? I know a great palm wine